Sohela, you meant the world to him. I heard about you all the time.
I know. When his sister saw me, I know Sohela. 1,000,000 times I heard your name.
His #1 student.
I think we heard humor a lot here, and I'm not about to tell jokes at a funeral. What I can tell you is that one thing that Jack was allergic to, people who took themselves too seriously. He did not appreciate arrogance in any capacity that it came, and he had a lot to be proud of. But he himself never showed that character trait, ever. But there were some things he was proud about. Jack was very, very, very proud to be Jewish. Very. It infused every conversation and every interaction that he had. He was very proud to be a member of the Cohen family. And in my community, he served us religiously as the capacity of Cohen. He was our go-to Cohen. A Cohen is a lineage that goes back over 2,000 years, more, till the children of Aaron, Moses' brother. Jack would bless us with the same exact blessing that Aaron Cohen blessed us in the desert. He came to bless us when my youngest son was born, Yedidia, this November. Jack was unable to come to the Brit Milah. But I told him, Jack, I'm not going to go to the Brit Milah until he receives your blessing. So over the phone, Jack said to me the words, Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Di'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. He blessed my child even though it was over the phone. Jack took the fact that he was Sephardic very seriously too. If I could on one foot explain to you in a brief instance what that means. I'm sure those of us in the Jewish community may be a little more familiar. After the destruction of our homeland 2,000 years ago and the occupation of the land of Israel by enemy forces, the Jewish people were sent into exile. Some went east, some went west, somewhere more east or more west than others. The autonomous Jewish nation in exile that spanned the countries of Spain and Portugal, Turkey, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, Morocco, Libya, Algeria. All of those countries became part of the Sephardic autonomous kingdom in exile. One legal system, one court system, oftentimes in history, one chief rabbi. And when people wish to discover what was so unique about this tradition, I'd argue it was the religious humanism of this tradition, which I'll speak about in just a moment. But if I'm telling you history, I want to share with you how I met Jack. Because I only met Jack in the year 2019. It feels like it's been forever. But it was 2019. And I'm sure all of you can remember the first time you met Jack. It was at Owen's engagement party to Chava. I was at his mother, Dr. Ronit Lev's home. And my father was speaking with a gentleman who was quite adamant that he did not want to meet his son, the rabbi. Jack at that point in his they should only fly for good reasons. At that point in his stint in this community, had it pretty much up to here with rabbis and Jews and religious organizations. And he wasn't so keen on meeting another rabbi. I'll call it what it was. But my father told Jack, my son is not a rabbi that you know, he's a Sephardic rabbi. And Jack said, I'm going to put him to a test. And Jack left the engagement party. And he drove home, and he came back with this beautiful paper, not even a paper, it's a document, his mother and father's ketubah, the marriage contract of his parents. And he said, Rabbi, read it to me. Now, I went to rabbinic exams a long time ago. I graduated high school. I graduated all my diplomas. I graduated everything that I need. I wasn't about to take a test with a man I never met before. But I realized it was important. And I began to read with him a wedding document from June, I believe 1947, in Bahrain. And I began to read it and translate. He said, enough, it's enough. I am happy. I said, why are you so happy? I didn't finish reading it. Because the last rabbi that I brought this ketubah to told me that it wasn't a Jewish wedding contract. He said he couldn't read a blessed word. And he said the only things he could read were the names King George and which ketubah has 3 rabbis signed on it. They only are supposed to have 2. I said, Jack, let me guess, the rabbi you took your ketubah to was not a Sephardic rabbi. Understatement of the year. This handwriting is a very unique Sephardic handwriting that we call chatzi kulmus. It's a half a quill. It was used across the Sephardic kingdoms. And in it, it recorded the wedding of Jack's parents, Dawood Menashe Cohen, with Evelyn Farah. Her last name was A, I beg it, but Enechi, thank you. In there, the currency that was used in Bahrain was British currency, hence King George's name being mentioned in the ketubah. And the reason why 3 rabbis were written there, because if anyone is familiar with the Jewish community of Bahrain, rabbis from Baghdad would travel regularly back and forth to Bahrain. They would say a date, we're coming to visit, and they would set up a bedin, and people who needed to get married, needed to get divorced, circumcisions, whatever needed to happen, happened on those days. I said, Jack, I'll tell you one more. This particular ketubah that you have from your parents was printed in the printing press of the Chacham Bashi, the chief rabbi, Rabbi Ezra Dangu, who was the chief rabbi of Iraq. You have a ketubah written and printed by Rabbi Ezra Dangu. Who could ever say that such a thing is not Jewish? And at that moment, Jack, he liked holding people's hands. He said, I have cast my lot with you. Those are words that I will remember forever. And that's when I realized that Jack was a very proud Jew who knew where he came from and would not let anyone trample on him or his family's dignity and reputation. And it pained me that I only met Jack so many years later, because I wish I would have met him before he met all the people that made him feel that he couldn't find himself in today's rabbinic communities. But Jack, when we began studying together, Jack told me one sentence. He says, Rabbi, I wish you to know, I know the Torah well. I just know it in English and not in Hebrew. But don't you ever hold that against me. And let me tell you, my friends, Jack knew the Torah well. Well. His friend Albert Kadosh is here. I know how much he discussed Torah with him and prayers with him. Even had a little bit of quibbles whether you should use Arabic when discussing Hebrew matters. Jack was a big fan. But perhaps one of the most deep and touching halachic, rabbinic, legal matters of jurisprudence that Jack brought to me was at the funeral of his dear mother, Aliyah Shalom. I come visit her regularly because Jack, as a Cohen, practiced not to come to the cemetery unless there was a reason for it. And I would come and stand here, and usually I would take a video and send it to Luis. Jack's mother had a wonderful caretaker. Caretakers, plural. Beautiful people. And Jack called me to ask if I'd be willing at the funeral, if I'd be willing to be there at the funeral of his mother. And I said, of course, what's the question? He said, but I have one request, and if you can accommodate my request, it would mean the world to me, because I know that most rabbis won't. I said, I don't know what you could ask me that a rabbi wouldn't want. He said, I want that one of the pallbearers should be representative of the family that took care of my mother. I said, what would be the problem with that? He said, because he is a man who is faithful to the Muslim faith. And I said, Jack, what would be the problem with that? And he said, well, you know, some rabbis. I said, I'm not some rabbis. Let me tell you, it could be that there are many stories in the world and a lot of politics that everyone is involved in. But when you put me on a wall and you say, there are people in this world who believe in the creator of the universe, then at the end of the day, we are all brothers and sisters. We may approach that creator differently. We may worship that creator differently. We may be very passionate that the way that we worship the creator is the correct one. We're entitled to that opinion. But if this was your mother's caretaker, it's your mother's family. It would be my honor for him to be there. And at that moment, Jack was so full of emotion. I remember when it happened at the funeral, Jack came that Shabbat to sit at my table in the synagogue, and I'm sure that some members of San Diego's community may be upset with what they hear. Jack sat at my table, and on my desk is my Tanakh, my Jewish Bible, which Jack knew from cover to cover very well. Very, very well. Better than most people. And he liked to test people on how much they knew it. And next to it was my New Testament and my Quran translated to English. And Jack said, Rabbi, that is why I call you doctor. And Jack, whenever he would talk to me, would slip up and call me doctor. I'm not a doctor. I never was a doctor. I'm not, my wife is a doctor, but I am not a doctor. And Jack, whenever he would speak with me, would give me a tremendous amount of respect. I heard here from the family members, Jack's connection of the old world and the new world, perhaps the East and the West. Jack was a man of very proud Sephardic heritage, was born in the heart of the East, and was so proud of this country, and so proud of the West and the values that were in this country. And Jack managed to create some harmony, like if you look around the faces here, the common denominator for most of us is this wonderful soul, this magnificent person, Jack. When I came to see him in the hospital the night before he was released home, Jack already was in and out of, wasn't the same strong Jack that we knew just 2 years ago. And Jack saw me, and again he took my hand. He said, "Doctor, I mean Rabbi." He corrected himself. He said, "How is your father doing?" Always asked about my family. "How is your wife doing? How are your children? How is the community that I haven't seen?" He looked into my eyes and he said, "Rabbi, I don't think I'm going to make it this time." I said, "Jack, you could feel however you want. My job is to tell you that you're going to make it." And then Jack looked at me and said, "Rabbi, with a life like this, living like this, who would want to make it?" And I didn't argue with him. I held his hand, and then he apologized, because what kind of Middle Eastern Jew would he be if he didn't apologize to me for something that he didn't do? And he says, "I apologize that I'm not standing up and kissing your head." Instead, he kissed my hand, and then he put it on his head and he put it on his heart. I said, "Rabbi, please take care of Luis." And I think if there's anything I could tell you about people that he loved and respected, it was his wife, Luis. In rabbinic law, the status of a wife is very complicated, because she's not a blood relative. She marries into a family. And one might think that therefore in rabbinic law, a wife comes in secondary status to the rest of the family. But rabbinic law has coined a very unique phrase that exists only for one person. Ishto kegufo. That a man and his wife are the same body. This is based on a verse in Genesis and Bereshit which says, "Al ken ya'azov ish et aviv v'imo v'davak b'ishto v'hayu levasar echad." That at that point of marriage, a man will leave his father and his mother, and he will cling to his wife, and they will become one flesh. Jack and I bonded a lot over him being married to Luis, because if we spoke about East and West, I think in this relationship there was a lot of East and West too. If you would hear Jack make jokes on my Shabbat table, you would think that his wife and my wife were force-feeding us gefilte fish out of a jar 7 days a week. And he loved to joke about that stuff. But there was nobody that was the apple of his eye like you. And I want to ask all of us today, walk away with these values. Walk away with a feeling that we are all brothers and sisters. Walk away with the recognition that at the end of the day, we all believe in the same Creator. At the end of the day, we all strive to be good people. At the end of the day, Jack's legacy would be to see us standing shoulder to shoulder together, offering respects. And I ask us together to look here at this beautiful family and to say, you're not alone. The people here are your extended family. We will be here for you. We will embrace you. We will love you. We will never leave your side. And if I may, one last word. At this point, the custom in Jewish tradition is to ask Jack forgiveness for anything that we may have done for him, to him. And to forgive him for anything that he may have done to us. Because the worst thing that can happen to a person is to go to the grave with any type of animosity or hurt feelings inside of their heart. And this is unusual what I'm going to do now, because I never do this in public. I just collectively say, "Please Jack, forgive us. Please Jack, forgive us." I have something I need to ask Jack forgiveness for. And forgive me if I need the tissues. The beginning of Jack's illness came with him and Luis to the hospital. We sat in the chapel there. It was so fitting that we were sitting in a chapel that had a Catholic service being prepared at the moment. And we prayed together. And when it came time to visit him, I let Jack know that myself and my family had become sick with COVID. And he said, please don't visit me. Because he was immunocompromised. Please don't come. It's very dangerous for me. I didn't come. Sometimes, in the Sephardic tradition, when we tell someone not to come, it means you better come. And when I waited my 10 days of incubation, and I called Jack back, Jack asked me to lose his phone number because I didn't come. And then Luis reached out to me. I said, don't take it to heart. Jack's in a lot of pain right now. Not just physical pain. For those who know Jack, spoke about it, emotional anguish that he was in. The next day, Jack called me because I wrote him a letter and I was afraid to come to his house, so I left it outside of his house with a bottle of wine. A long letter. I said, Jack, if you never want to talk to me again, it's okay. But you're my best friend, and I love you more than I can tell you. I respect you. You're a mentor to me. Who else am I going to argue with and study with? Who's going to come to me after a speech and say, Rabbi, beautiful delivery, but I disagree on every point you said? Who else is going to do that to me? I said, Jack, I love you, even if you never want to speak to me again. And Jack called me. He said, Rabbi, please never take me so seriously. I love you so much. Your family is my family. Your children are my children. And just like that, we began speaking again. But I want to ask Jack's forgiveness for the moments that I may not have been present like I should have been. On behalf of all of us, for all the things that maybe we didn't do enough for a man that is here, may we merit to live up to his reputation. May we merit to live up to his legacy. May Adonai, the God of Israel, welcome him under the wings of his Shekhinah. HaMerachem al kol b'yotav. Hu yachus v'yachmol v'yachem על נפש, רוח ונשמה של הנפטר בשם טוב בני עולם, יעקב בן דאוד ואבלין פרח הכהן. רוח אדוני תנחנו בגן עדן, הוא וכל בני ישראל השוכבים עמו, בחלל הרחמים והסליחות, וכן יהי רצון ונאמר אמן. At this point in time, we rise as we begin the burial process for our beloved Jack.